Yeah, and I think we have to make mention of Mark Few's son getting dunked on at the end of that game too, right?
We're not
Like we
starting
gotta
with
Come
we
on.
that,
gotta make
man.
mention
We're
of
not
that.
starting
Like
with
that
that.
was we're not starting with that. Okay,
Off the
listen,
If you
top.
that
want to, if you
was
want to jump in the water, if you want to get
I
in the
give the
water, get
man credit for putting his body in the play. I got to give him credit. Look, I was shocked by the result, just the margin of victory. You look at the numbers. At the end of the day, Baylor can't make a shot from behind a 3-point line. They go 3 for 21 from three. Gonzaga goes 13 for 31. That's the difference in the game. Jaden Nunn really struggled. If you're a Baylor fan, he's the guy that you wanted to see make the jump with everything that they lost, with all the guys that they lost to go to the NBA last year. He's the guy that you want to see. Okay, he's been in the program. He's been with us now. He knows our culture. He knows the style of play. He knows how we're playing. He's got to make a jump. He struggled in the game. I mean, only 11 assists. The ball movement has to be way better. It was just, you mentioned it, John. I mean, give Scott Drew credit for playing the game, especially early in the year, which a lot of coaches aren't doing. I mean, you look at the slate of games. I mean, coaches are playing guaranteed games at home in their first game of the season. Yeah. And for Baylor to go out there and play this game, we need games like that, especially to start college basketball, because all anyone's talking about right now is the college football playoff and what the rankings are and who's playing who come December. We need more games like this to create more buzz around our game. And I think that, the Field of 68 tip-off in Sioux Falls is a way to do that. But these games, these home and homes, and let's not make them at 11 o'clock at night where we got to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, this is not the presidential election. We don't want to have to do that. We want to be able to watch college basketball on the first day of college basketball at 7 o'clock and have good opponents and good games. So I give Baylor credit, but they got to play better. And Jaden Nunn, to me, is a guy that needs to play better for this team.
John, I want to get your thoughts here. I was blown away, and I found myself projecting over the course of a season, how is anybody going to deal with Greg, with Huff, with EK? Because, the game's kind of getting a little close there in the second half. I think Baylor cuts to 13. EK's on the bench. He comes right back in. I think he scores the next 2 out of 3 possessions, and it's like it never even happened. How is anybody going to deal with that rotation of bigs in college basketball this season?
It's going to be tough. I mean, they have 84% of last year's minutes, which is the 5th highest in the country, and they're a top-tier team. So I kind of figured Baylor was in trouble. Baylor's got to figure it out. On paper, their roster is a lot more talented than the final score indicated, but they got the number 6 recruiting class. But that takes time, man. I think in college basketball with this new era of getting guys involved, I mean, there's no way you can just come in with 7 or 8 new guys and it'd be gel and be a well-oiled machine. It just doesn't work like that. So I think Baylor's better than they showed. But Gonzaga, they had 42 points off the bench. I mean, they look like they're ready, day one ready, and they're only going to get better. So it's going to be interesting to see a top 5 team kind of returning 90-ish% of their minutes. What do they do in a tournament? Because I think continuity is lost, man. I think there's something that needs to be more of that in college basketball. And Baylor got a good lesson in retaining players a couple nights ago. They got 2 All-ACC players as well, and North Chad and Jeremy Roach. So I think Baylor will be fine, but Gonzaga showed them what continuity and talent does, and it was ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I know it seems crazy talking to Mike to say this about a number 6 team, but I mean, it just feels like that's just too low. I mean, you may have a different opinion, but I just felt like I don't think there are 4 teams that are better than this Gonzaga team in college basketball.
No, they're up there for sure. I think they're pretty firmly for me. Like I would honestly, I'd put them over Kansas right now. Like I think it's Alabama. I think UConn's in that conversation, obviously. And I think Gonzaga's right there too. I think, Kansas obviously has things to figure out, but look, Gonzaga, John, you touched on it, right? That's a well-oiled machine when you return that type of continuity. And now I do think that Baylor aided them a little bit. And I'll go back to what we talked about with Arkansas. I don't know in what world with that personnel, you're switching not only 1 through 5 ball screens, you're switching everything off the ball. So now this was the problem, and this is why Gonzaga got off to such a good start, was you're switching 1 through 5, every single thing. So now Gonzaga's face cutting you. They're slipping out. They're getting shots like Matt. You talked about the 3-point shooting for Gonzaga. They shot 70% from inside the arc, and part of that was because you have Omier, you have Ojonwenu, and half the time they're finishing possessions on the perimeter because they switched. And then you got Jeremy Roach at 6'2", and you got Robert Wright at 6'1" or 6 foot, having to deal with bigs down low. And that's why Gonzaga gets 16 offensive rebounds, gets it back on the glass. And I mean, obviously give Mark Few and Gonzaga a ton of credit. I think give Stephen Gentry a lot of credit, the assistant for Gonzaga, who I think is just probably one of the more underrated offensive tacticians in college basketball. Like they took it to him, and it was just, they got anything they wanted defensively. And then offensively for Baylor, super disjointed. It just kind of felt like it was resorting to, hey, just put your head down, try to go get one. And you play against a team like that, like we talked about, with that type of continuity, it can get out of hand quickly. So it's good that Baylor, I think, learned the lesson now compared to learning it, you know, in the first week of December. That's why you schedule tough. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think Scott Drew can work with after, after that type of film.